You're listening to Spainfully, the podcast where me, Paul,
and me, Catherine, talk about what it's really like living in Spain.
each week we'll share stories, tips, and honest conversations about daily life here in Spain.
When you live in Spain, you're thinking about moving, or you just want to know a little bit more about Spain.
So grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's get Spainfully honest. Hello everybody and welcome to episode 7. Yes, number 7. Fantastic. What have we been up to this week? Anything exciting?
Well, I'm actually going to give the weather a shout out this week because we've been trying not to talk about and complain about it too much because that's all I do is complain about the weather. It's been lovely.
Yeah, it's been good.
I have to say, the end of July has been, because this is going out in August, but it's at the moment it's the end of July, and it's the weather's been great, very manageable July this year.
And really accurate. I was using, I use the Apple weather thing, and it said 8 o'clock in Moppergan on whatever day it was, I think it was Thursday or something, it's going to rain.
Yeah.
And honestly, 1 minute to 8 it started raining.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And then it sort of went off again. And I went to bed. I had a bit of nightmares because I still had a bit of man flu. And woke up next morning, looked out the window, and there was a little bit of rain on the running down the street, a little bit of water, no rain, it cleared up. And then I went onto Facebook, and there was all these stories about a foot of snow in Calaspara, and these pictures of rivers running down the streets and all sorts. I looked out the window, and I didn't even hear it. I didn't hear any of it. I thought
I woke up, it was very heavy, the rain was very heavy, I woke up, and Alex was walking around the house making sure that it wasn't coming in anywhere, but no.
But it went as soon as it came, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Honestly, by 9:30 in the morning, you could just sit as if somebody mopped.
Yeah.
And it was just drying. That's what it was like out on the street.
And the temperatures dropped with it. Yeah. It was lovely.
It's gone probably 7 degrees, I suppose, cooler, but the difference is fantastic.
And
also less let's say claggy. It's not sticky is the word. Claggy is when you're eating something that's a bit good to eat.
I've never heard that word.
That's a great claggy. Love the word claggy.
Claggy.
Yeah. So that has made a difference, yes.
Oh my god, yeah, and it's continued on until this week as well. And it's, as we record this, it's cloudy and they're talking about a little bit of rain today, but nothing like last week. Yeah, it's just kept it very manageable. It's like at night time as well. I know it was the most really nice. I've been sleeping very well. Yeah.
I mean, it's not good if you're on your 2 week annual holiday, but when you live here like we do, you like it, it's great.
Yeah. Well, it's been nice. It's just been a break, so it hasn't been like continuously rainy or anything. It's been sunny mostly, it's just like a bit of rain here and there. So yeah, I had to give a shout out to the weather. It's lovely this July. If it could be like this every July, it'd be perfect.
Yeah. Well, I always find August is a little bit cooler than July here in this area, but you do get a bit more like cloudiness.
Yeah, and humidity, a bit more humidity, but there's like more of a breeze around or something in August. I don't know what it is. Yeah, it is. I always find August more manageable myself. It might not be this year though. I think they're saying the heat that we're not getting in July, we might be getting it in August.
Passing on the heat.
But anyway, at the moment,
enough about the weather.
I'm not going to complain. How's your week been?
Same really. I haven't really done a lot, to be honest. I mean, I've not everything, just messing around. So
beach, bits and bobs.
We've been for a walk. Had an ice cream yesterday. Melted very quickly.
A lot of ice cream. Yeah.
So anyway, this one, so episode 7. We're talking about property in general. Really, we're talking about our experience because in the next 2 weeks, that is right, isn't it?
Yeah.
In the next 2 weeks, we've got one expert coming on who's an agent in sort of country properties, so fincas and properties sort of slightly away from the coast, down not on a resort. And then the week after that, we've got another agent who's going to talk about sort of resort/urbanisation properties and city properties, because that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So those are two to listen out for. But we thought we'll give a general one from us, and then we'll let them talk about those in the next 2 weeks.
For me, it's kind of like what not to do.
Yeah.
But
me as well. I made some big mistakes. I mean, definitely. And probably didn't learn from them. But that's not the point, But on the other hand, we were just talking about this before we started, is we both still love living here. So we make mistakes. We make mistakes in everything. If you don't do anything, you never make a mistake.
Exactly.
So don't be too negative. Don't be too positive. Don't be like in between.
We don't mean to be negative, but we're just going to go back over our negative experiences a little bit.
Yeah, because
just so
we're trying to be Spainfully honest.
Yeah. And it's just trying to highlight all the things that can possibly maybe go wrong, or what went wrong for us, so that you can avoid it.
A lot of the time, mine in particular, the issues I had were just down to my naivety and stupidity.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Things that I would have thought twice about doing in the UK. Yeah, I didn't bother because somebody said, "Oh yeah, it'll be all right."
Yeah.
And
you would never do that in Ireland. Sure, you wouldn't. You do your homework, you check, and
And so, you see something, you think it's fantastic, and then afterwards there's loads of issues crop up because you didn't really think about it. But for me, I mean, I'm sure there's cases for people where they have been deal breakers and they, I don't know, it's stopped their love for Spain. But for me, it didn't do that. Just something you had to deal with. Anyway.
From things I've read, it doesn't seem to be. It just seems to be something annoying that happened at the beginning of everyone's journey, and then they got past it and they enjoy living in Spain.
But the problem is that a lot of the things that get put on Facebook and things like that, it's very rare to see somebody who says, everything went smoothly, life was fantastic, I bought my house, I love it, and that's great.
Yeah.
You don't put that on Facebook. You put on Facebook when something's gone wrong, you're asking questions about how to deal with it, or you're trying to warn people not to do those things. So, you have to, there is a balance for the 10 that go on Facebook. There's probably 90 who haven't had any problems and everything's been fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. People don't talk about the good stories.
And again, like we said, we're doing this podcast. Today we might be talking about some negative things about being in Spain, but they don't outweigh the fact that we love living in Spain.
Yeah.
Right, stop waffling now. So, if I start...
You start.
So my first experience of property in Spain was... I've said this before. We were starting a business with my wife's uncle down in Costa del Sol, and we've flown over a couple of times to have a look round. We got information about the bar and all that, and then once we realised where the bar was going to be, we then wanted to find nearby property. And my wife's uncle, Don, he had experience in that area, and he wanted to live in a place called Benalmádena Pueblo, which was the old part of Benalmádena, and it's lovely, fantastic. And so we looked there. We went there, went round the agents, had a walk around. We knew the area, or he knew the area, so that helped obviously in the beginning. And found an agent. And found an agent that was actually building a block of apartments, and they would be ready by exactly the time that we needed to. First issue, exactly the time that we needed to come, which was May 1996. They'd be ready that day, actually, that day. So, yeah, we believed all that and paid the deposit and went a look round, and they were nearly finished when we saw them, to be honest with you. Anyway, we then, my father had a big truck, a 13-ton truck, so we went from the north of England with all our furniture into Richmond in London, picked all his furniture up, and then me and my father drove over in the van, and my wife and my wife's uncle and his partner flew over, and I had to bring the dog because we had a dog. And anyway, so we drove over. And we get there to the place, and we drive down the road, and we get to where these apartments are, and they're not finished. I mean, they weren't far off finished, but they weren't finished. It was nothing major that would stop you moving in it, but they weren't finished. Anyway, so everybody's there and really happy that the truck's got there and no major issues. Step down, and as we step down out of the truck, the dog jumps out, and the landlord says, "What's that?" And I was like, "It's a dog." It's Catherine. The one we told you why we wanted this apartment because it's ground floor.
It's Catherine?
Catherine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, your dog's name was Catherine.
Yeah. Catherine. What's that? Oh, it's the dog, but this is why we want this apartment, because it's ground floor and it's got a garden, and we said that to you. Oh no, you can't stay here with a dog. They were brand new apartments and he didn't want a dog in the apartment. So when we were there, we left it, we sold a house in the UK, we were there with all our things in the back of this truck. You can't have it. No. At like 5 o'clock at night on a I can't remember what day it was, but 5 o'clock at night. What do you do? Yeah. The Dom, they could have theirs, so their stuff was in the truck, but we couldn't have it.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so we just don't know. We went up to the bar and we were really upset and just sat there thinking, what do we do now? Sleep in the truck. Anyway, and there was somebody there, and who said, I've got a place. Are you interested? Do you want to have a look? So, okay, you know, I guess we wouldn't take it in, I think. We got it Wednesdays in. And what it was the servants' quarters of a mansion.
Oh.
It was amazing. This place was unbelievable, and the servants' quarters were fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And it had a massive garden with peacocks in it and all sorts. And he said, "Oh, I've got the dog. You know, might be a problem with the peacocks. No problem. Put a fence up." And within an hour, he put a fence up between, like, on this bit that you could sort of separate the garden to the garden. So, you know, it's one of those things. Sometimes things turn out right. And I mean, I did spend virtually every weekend chasing peacocks because they would come up to the fence to look at the dog would look at them, the dog would bark, and peacocks can't really fly. I think they must have been clipped, they can't really fly, but they could fly high enough to get over the wall. So they'd fly over the wall and then run off. And peacocks can run fast, I can tell you. And so I literally spent both weekends. He used to let them go and not be worried about them, but at weekends we had to go and get them back. Big peacocks, not little peacocks, chasing these bleeding peacocks around the field.
They have like
Yeah, you don't mess with a peacock. And we used to throw like a jumper over its head and then get it like a sort. So then bring it back. But it was regular, it was like virtually every weekend chasing peacock, right, come on, and go and get the peacock.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, it's not a problem you think you're going to have when you move over to Spain. Like,
No,
keeping your
I
dog
didn't
away
think
from
I'd be a
peacocks.
peacock chaser. But no, yeah. So,
For me, it was a bit more straightforward when I moved over to Spain, because I moved over as a student, so I just shared an apartment for a long time. But it was kind of a similar thing. Well, not a similar thing at all. There are no peacocks or anything like that. But we were searching for like loads of places, and we were traveling loads of places, and we were trying to get a nice, me and my friend who came up from Ireland from university, trying to get a nice place. And then I just kind of happened upon, you know, this person who said, "Oh, I know a lady who rents her apartment there for students." And like, we'd been looking at places, and they were like, you know, 25 minutes on the metro here and all that. It was 30 steps from the university where we were going. It was like this luxury apartment. You should have seen it. It was spectacular. I can't remember if she was a psychologist or a psychiatrist. She had like a plaque on the door, and she kind of ran her practice from there. It was huge. And she had like her side of the apartment and our side of the apartment. That's how big it was. The only thing we had to share was the kitchen. But it was like her and her two sons lived there. They had their bedrooms and bathrooms and the sitting room and everything on one side, and her office. And then she had this other side of the apartment with this massive balcony. It was spectacular, and I found it was so cool, because I was kind of like, when we were coming over, my friend was probably the one. These days I'm pretty organised, but at the time I was quite not organised, scrappy, bit of a messer, going out, you know, that was kind of my thing. Whereas she was the one who was like, you know, she was like studying this where we're going to find an apartment.
yeah, you always make one of them. You always make one of them people.
She was great, but she was really serious about it, and the fact that I just happened upon this fantastic
Ooh, never forgive you for that.
Yeah, she loved me, but it was such a surprise, and it was much cheaper than all the other ones that we found as well. Like, she had lots. It was so big, she had lots of students in there, so obviously she wasn't charging as much per room. And and it was brilliant, and it was great. And then that was when I was as a student, and afterwards I just rented an apartment. You know, we shared an apartment, and it was like, at the time we were paying like €200 each or something like that. I think it was €600 a month for the apartments in Madrid. And in Madrid you can go a little bit further out because the metro is so good. You can get anywhere within, I would say, 20-25 minutes. You know, within the city of Madrid. Of course, then Madrid has what do you call them, suburbs and stuff like that. But there's still a metro to the suburbs, but it's longer than 25 minutes, of course. But it was great. So I mean, you don't have to be in the city centre of Madrid, because you know the metro is all over. You can hop on the metro and be anywhere in 5 minutes. So we were paying like €200 a month, each, so about €600 a month for a lovely apartment. Yeah.
I mean, we mentioned it in the kids special a couple of weeks ago that Emily rents in Mercy, and she's paying €200 a month for a room in a shared apartment with other students. You know, so it's a little bit more sensible, probably. I think, for a lot of places in the UK for that.
And Madrid has gone crazy now, of course, as well. I don't think you'd find that in Madrid these days.
If you are interested in one of the more, perhaps not Barcelona or Madrid, but the other cities, I'm sure that if you're renting within a sensible distance, you will get sensible price.
I imagine so, yeah.
Don't let that put you off. That's what you can see.
And then I came down here, and again, I rented a property properties down here in San Pedro. I've always been San Pedro, San Javier. I was in Los Alcázares because I worked in the airport, so I kind of went from those towns when I rented as well. And then I was just going to mention as well with the fact that, just to highlight that it's different in Madrid and on the coast of Spain, that sometimes it can be difficult to find a long-term rental, because I wanted to live in it. You know, at this point now that I'm talking about, I was a single mother, had a young son, and so I wanted somewhere, you know, where I could kind of settle down and he could have his room, you know. But it's difficult to do on the coast of Spain because there's a lot of movement in the rental properties down here, you know.
I think a lot of it is to do with the fact that the Spanish, a lot of the Spanish get, the kids have the holidays obviously July and August, and a lot of people get the whole of August off. So they want their place for the whole of August.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to rent it in August. Or if they do want to rent it in August, they want to get effectively the same for a week that they would get for a month in the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So you'll see a load of properties that are available from the 1st of September until, say, the 1st of June.
Yeah.
But then are not available unless you're willing to pay those prices for the other 3 months.
Much higher.
So long term, close to, and that's mainly, I would think, close to the sea.
Yeah, because I didn't have that at all in Madrid. It was like, once you rented somewhere, you were there for no bother. It was just keep paying, and there was no, you know, you just updated your contract and there was no bother. But over here, every time I used to update my contract, they changed their mind. They decided they wanted to sell the property because, you know, the amount of property had gone up by quite a bit, and they decided to make a bob on it. Or then they decided that they would prefer to make it a short-term rental rather than a long-term rental, so that, because it's in where we are, the weather is lovely most of the year. So actually, you can rent it out like a tourist type apartment. You can rent it out pretty much year round, I would say. Maybe not January, February, December, even at a stretch. But the rest of the year, you could probably rent it out no problem as a tourist apartment, I would say.
And you get a lot more per week than you will per month, but it's whether you get the regularity of it.
And then I had people who just then, of course, had bought the property to then eventually move over to it. So, of course, at any point, it's someone else's home, in essence, and therefore you're just kind of keeping it warm for when they move over. So you could never really get settled in a rental property in the way you can in some other places, like maybe in Dublin, if you're renting a place. In the States, I think a lot of people almost prefer to, they say, lease or rent in some places.
I think you get more of it away from the coast.
Definitely.
So like with us, like Mercy City from here is 20 minutes, and there you'll get long lets.
I think so.
Proper long lets, so as we understand now, where you might live for 5 years, you know. Yeah. But it's just when it's coastal, it's that seasonality.
It's just more movement in it, isn't there? Yes, so so you couldn't.
And in my block, I think I said this before, but in my block, I'm the only one that lives there. Everybody else is rented, and none of them rent. I mean, the families use it, but none of them rent. But you know, potential is that they could be different rentals. But the families come in July and August, and they're there for the whole 8 weeks.
So you'd probably be able to rent it, but not in June, July, and August. Definitely. So something to keep in mind. Because I know some people, and these days there's a lot of talk about it, isn't there? I listen to other podcasts, and they're all talking about how buying a property is not necessarily a good investment anymore. Sometimes it's not about the investment, sometimes it's about what you just need to do in the moment, you know, and I felt like, well, even though it was a bad time in the market to buy a property because it was right when everything was super expensive here, like right at the peak, right at the top. I mean, I think nearly the next day after I bought my property, the price of it was more.
I paid nearly double what I sold it for.
So it was like, it was just the right time for me, for my son, because he was nearly 3, and I wanted him to have like a little room and everything like that, and feel properly settled. So that's why I ended up buying a property here quite young, and everyone tried to talk me out of buying the property because of the time and what was happening in the market. But it was maybe the wrong time in the market, but it was the right time for me, and that's just how it is sometimes, you know. But just wanted to highlight that because I know people think that they might be able to come to Spain and just rent. But it might not be as straightforward as you think on the coast to rent all the time. It might be more comfortable to buy a property than it would be to rent a property, depending on what your needs are.
Well, saying that, we would still definitely recommend you rent before you buy.
Oh yeah.
Not to experience renting, but to experience the area.
Yeah.
You know, and have a look around while you're here. You know.
Yeah.
The more experience you can get of the area will prove whether you like it or whether it's the right area for you. or the other way around. But you might just struggle to do that in July and August.
Yeah.
So if you were coming up, I would say don't come, if you're going up to come somewhere to rent, come in September or October, and then you'll have like effectively 9 months where you can rent easily, because there'll be plenty available for that time.
And also, and it doesn't matter where you go, well, maybe in other parts of Spain, but from the places that I've been, so whether it be Madrid or along the coast, in July and August, you're not getting it's not what it's actually like. So the coast is way, way busier and there's lots more going on, and Madrid is way, way quieter and there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
So if you come in those months, you're not getting a real snapshot of what it's actually like to live there. I think September onwards, it will be more what it's like, daily life will be like.
I mean, the only reverse to that is that don't think you're like me, don't think my apartment is that quiet in July and August.
Yeah, of course.
In July and August, it's door banging, it's all that. So, if you do rent it in February, the block is going to be quieter than it will be. So you have to sort of account for that.
Yeah.
But it is only 2 months.
Yeah.
You have to bear that in mind. And we said before, and we'll say the same. I'm quite looking forward to going back when it gets to June, because it's been so quiet. But then by the end of August, I would rather
I'm the same. Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah.
But it's like a season. It's not just a weather season. It's the noise season.
Yeah, I find myself sometimes having to remind myself to enjoy the summer.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a moan bag, so I'm like between the heat and the noise, I'm kind of like I find myself like slipping into complaining a lot, So and then sometimes I'll be like, I have to pull over my son, and I'm sitting there thinking, how lucky am I?
You get a lot of people that say, I need to come over in July and August to see how hot it is.
Yeah.
I can tell you it's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Believe me, I'm not lying. It is hot.
Yeah, it is.
But you have to deal with your house for that. Like in the UK, you wouldn't rent somewhere to see what the snow's like. You wouldn't do it. But if it snows, and you have to gear up for it.
Exactly.
Make sure you've got double glazing, carpets, things like that.
And again, it's like highlighting something negative, but it's not. It's spreading that awareness so that you can make the right decision. Like if this house, for example, is west facing. Yeah, it is, yes. It's west facing. Yeah. So we get the sun shines into it, for most of the day. And so we can't use the front garden in July and August because you could literally cook an egg on the floor out there. I'm gonna try that actually. Yeah. But yeah, it's so hot out there, so we can't use.
Well, I mean, not so eggs.
Yeah. As well, just got this so but yeah, so we can't use the house, or we can't use the garden in July and August because it's so hot. Then all the rest of the year,
you can use it for tenancy.
Yeah, exactly. And then another funny thing as well is, the houses are made for the heat. They're meant to keep the heat out. So there's a certain couple of months, and again, only not many months, probably just January, February, and maybe the first week or two of March, where they're really cold inside. And as well as that, if you live on the coast, it's humid, so the humidity with the cold kind of creeps into the houses. And then sometimes you'll open the door and it's roasting outside. It's cold in your house. You have to when you want to get dressed for the day, you have to go out onto the road to test it. It's like, oh yeah, no, I need to take off a layer or something, go back into the house, because sometimes it'll be freezing in the house, but it's lovely outside because the houses are made for that. So yeah, they're not cozy in the winter.
Yeah, you have to make it cozy, to buy roofs and things like that. And one of the things is to try and keep it warm so the walls and the floor stay warm. Yeah. If you have a situation where you go away for a week and you switch everything off, when you come back, the sort of infrastructure of the house is cold, so then it takes time to get back hot again. It's never freezing cold. It's nothing that a jumper and a pair of slippers won't fix.
I mean, I got central heating put in though. I think it was great, and it's not only great for the keeping the house warm, of course, but the damp in the house as well. It's gotten rid of, because we had the rooms, as the sun shines into the front of the house, it very rarely shines into any of the rooms in the back of the house. And so the bathroom and all the rooms that are on that side of the house, lots of a lot of damp. We put a lot of work into the damp in the property. And then as soon as we always had to kind of maintain it, but as soon as we put the central heating in, so.
And also as well, here, in a lot of places, other than the major cities, there's no natural gas. So everything is electrical. But what people do, when I've done it, is you buy the portable gas heaters. Yeah. The problem with those is butane. The whole cylinder is liquid. And when it evaporates into the air and it makes things damp.
Yeah.
So it's a really damp form of heating. So it feels warm, but it creates so much water effectively.
Yeah.
So things can get damp just because of that.
But we had gas, central heating.
Because it was real gas.
Yeah, real gas.
Oh, right, so it's real gas.
Because they're starting to put it in, because the pipes weren't laid, so whenever they put it in, they have to dig up the roads and put the pipes in. But yeah, they're literally starting to just put it town by town, you'll notice. Yeah. So if you're already here and you want natural gas, then you can check to see if they have it in your area. But yeah, we got it, when we saw that they were putting it into the roads outside, we got it put into the house.
A lot of the organisations and things have it, because they're built into the infrastructure, so they can do it. But when it's I'm in like the centre of Rotterdam, that's, I think they were all built in sort of 70s and 80s, it's not.
Yeah, and probably the last areas where they would be digging up the roads to put it in and stuff as well, I would say, yeah.
I've got radiators, but I've got these sort of very economical electric radiators. They look like a Spanish radiator, but they're just electric rather than gas. The thing to remember in Spain is when you buy a property, it's worth looking at, is you get a quantity of electricity that you can use. So most houses, when they're built, a 3.3 kilowatt supply. It can be upgraded, but they supply a 3.3 kilowatts. And if you think a kettle might be between 2 and 3 kilowatts. So if you put a kettle on and you've also got the radiator on, it's going to flip the switch.
So annoying, isn't it?
So you have to be careful about what you buy as far as accessories go and how many things you put on at the same time. We had a situation where we were trying to cook Christmas dinner. And the oven, it was a double oven with 4 rings, all electric. And because of 3.3 kilowatts, you couldn't have everything on at the same time, even just on the oven, never mind anything else, so boil the kettle and everything. So you could have 2 rings on both ovens, or 1 oven and 4 rings, and Christmas dinner was there. We ended up cooking sort of all the potatoes and things outside on the gas grill.
Well, that's what they do. You see a lot of people cooking outdoors rather than in the
I've got an outside kitchen in my house, and I do it more not for the use of electricity, but for the smell.
Yeah.
So I can't cook fish and things on the outside terrace just because of the smell.
And you'll notice Spanish people doing that as well, take your washing in.
All right, I have to run out and check it and run back in the middle of winter. But I still do it, it's never that cold.
And it doesn't rain that often. If you're in the kind of area where it doesn't rain that often, you can use it pretty much year round.
And that's so outside. I've got a gas ring that runs off the butane, the big bottles, but it's outside, so there's no problem with the condensation.
Yeah, and we were saying we have a gas barbecue that has a ring, so we use that a lot. We use it more in the winter than we do in the summer.
I know lots of people who say they cook on the barbecue. Yeah, a lot. I mean, a lot. Not just. I don't mean having a barbecue where people come round, but on a daily basis they use a barbecue.
Cook their meat or cook their fish or whatever. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I recommend it. I'm done with a bit of tangent.
Yeah, a bit of tangent.
Good to know.
So then I explained this before, but then I was in the Costa del Sol for about a year, and then went back to the UK. And after 3 years, realised that it wasn't that we didn't like living in Spain. It's just that where we were and what we were doing wasn't right for us, so we came back again. But I was in a really lucky situation, and if you are in this situation, definitely use it. Was that my parents had a holiday house here. So we had somewhere to go, and that is the perfect situation. So you're not really paying much out, but it allows you then to have a really good look round. And we ended up buying effectively a finca, which is like a Spanish farmhouse, that had been owned by 2 brothers, and they had a half each, and it was 2 bedrooms, 1 lounge, 1 small kitchen, 1 bathroom on each side of a bungalow, but a semi-detached bungalow. But we bought both halves, so effectively ended up with 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, kitchen. But because we were living in my parents' house, it meant that we could do the work not living there.
Yeah.
So I got different people in. I got an English plumber, a Spanish electrician, and then I think were Ukrainian builders. Recommended from different people. And everyone that saw the others' work commented how good it was. So I was very lucky. I didn't have anybody that wasn't, didn't do a good job. And then a friend of mine, somebody that I ended up working with, he was he wasn't a builder, but he was so good at building, if that makes sense. And he was absolutely precision, so important to him. And he developed my terrace, he built all the terrace, put a roof on, put columns in. And the man who came to put the windows in the terrace said he'd never seen such an accurate builder.
Oh.
He'd had to make me 4 windows, and they were identical. And they were big windows, they were identical to the Irvington. He was amazed.
Wow.
This very man. He said, I've never seen that before.
Oh.
So yeah, no, it's really good. I mean, it took about, I'd say, altogether from start to finish. So from, we could live in it, we could have lived in it, but we didn't have to, which was good.
Yeah.
But from start to finish, it took about 18 months.
Yeah, 18 months.
But it was a lot of work. I mean, it was totally, by the end, it was 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, swimming pool, massive sort of covered terrace area. So it was a big change. And then we had to change one more important thing. We had to change all the legalities of the property then. We had to say what we'd changed in the bathroom, we had to say the change of size and everything. I mean, that was something that my lawyer recommended to us that we should do. I probably would have got away with not doing that. But obviously when you come to sell it, it has to match what it's going to be.
Then it's a nightmare then, the selling will be.
Yeah, and the thing with that is obviously, it hadn't, the footprint hadn't got any bigger, but what we'd done is we'd covered the terrace. So that effectively meant that, and it was columns and windows. It effectively became part of the house. So I had to change the size of the property on the deeds and everything. And you have to pay more tax. You have to pay more rates. You have to pay a tax for doing that.
Yeah.
But it's the right thing to do. There's a lot of things where you think, oh, it's remote and there's nobody will see it. But there'll be a point where something happens that you need for it to be legal.
And then you'll see a big dramatic story about that on Facebook. But actually, if they had done the right thing from the start, there wouldn't be the big dramatic story.
I mean, a lot of the things, these nightmares in Spain, if you actually look into it, something is wrong.
Yeah.
That shouldn't have been done. That wouldn't have happened if it was UK. Wouldn't have happened if it was Ireland. A house has been built in the middle of nowhere. But no planning permission. It wasn't a residential area, and this house has been built. Well, in the UK or Ireland, if you were to build a house in a field, you would get planning permission for it, and then you'd find out that it wasn't possible. I mean, one of the things out of all this episode, and we'll talk about it just before we start, is 2 things. Don't switch off what you would think of doing in your home country. Don't think it's somewhere else they won't mind or whatever. They probably do.
Yeah.
And also, personally, don't switch off your sense.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I've got a classic story. I mean, we've sold furniture to probably, in this area, like 5,000 houses or different people. One that stuck out in my mind, a lady and gentleman came in to furnish the property. They just put a deposit in, put €5,000 deposit down on a house on. We've got a strip here, what's called the Manga Strip, and it's effectively a sandbar that's been urbanised.
Yeah, like manga means seed, so it's literally that's what it looks like in
It does. I didn't know that. Anyway, they put a €5,000 deposit on a detached villa on this strip of land. And they've been told by the agent that it was actually illegal. It was too close to the sea. It needed to be it would be legal if it was 5 metres further back. And they put a deposit down because the owner said he would move the house 5 metres. I mean, how are you going to move a house 5 metres? And when they came in, we were sat talking about the sofas and things, and they were telling the story. And I just said to them, whoa, hold on a minute. I'm not selling you any furniture. You need to go and get that properly checked out, because that cannot be right. And it wasn't. They came back in afterwards and said,
move the property
that's
back.
not right. No, it's not right.
Push it back.
It's too good to be true. It probably is too
yeah.
good to be true. But anyway, but in the UK, you won't do that.
You'd never straight away, you wouldn't even know.
So get a lawyer, get an architect if you need an architect if you think it's something unusual about it. You can have surveys done here. There are companies. I'll find the details. I know a company that does surveys and they cover quite a big area. So we'll get those, And it's not something that's, sometimes with banks you have to have a survey, but it's very rare to get asked for one on a normal purchase, but they are available. So, if you think a property needs a survey,
Yeah.
Yes,
And like, yeah, but what Paul was saying, if your kind of gut is telling you that something doesn't feel right, like act on it. Like I had a bit of a mad story as well, because then when I decided to buy a property, I was a single mother, so it was difficult to get a mortgage. And I had to use my parents as guarantors. You have to do that in other countries as well, right? But it was weird because the person who sold me the property was also the bank manager. And so he brought all the paperwork for the mortgage to the estate agents. Like I was, my age was like 22, 23, like the first property I've ever bought. So I was like, oh, is this what we do? And I assumed that the bank then would be in the town where I was, but in fact it was actually, well, how far it was in Pinar de Campo Verde.
15 kilometres?
Yeah.
10 miles?
And I don't drive, and you can't get to Campo Verde without driving. Sure you can't. It's like there's
Like
one
a
road
country
that goes
area.
right inland. And the bank ended up, my branch, like there was other branches, but my branch is in that area. And of course, if you do banking in Spain, and before banking online, anytime you had to sign anything, you had to go to the branch where you opened your account to do it. Like they won't let you. That's one thing in Spain that's still to this day. You can do a lot on banking online though, but still to this day that if you, does that happen in other countries? I don't know if that happens in other countries, but in Spain that if you want to do anything with your bank, you have to go to the branch where you opened it. So that if you, for example, if you moved over to Madrid and then you moved down to the coast, you have to change your branch to the coast.
Yeah, you can't just leave it there. You can just leave it there, but you may have to go into sign. So, so you need to properly change your branch location. I had to do it when I moved from the countryside to the coast. I moved the branch.
You need to move your branch, yeah. But anyway, yes, so that was like one part that happened, which was really random. And then he, what must have been in the process of doing the mortgage, because I was as I said, single mother, so it's only going to be me on the mortgage. I had to get my parents as guarantors. Without telling us, he put some of the mortgage on my parents' house and on the property that I wanted to mortgage as well. So, but he never sat down and talked through that. He just put it into the paperwork.
I've got a way around this. It'll be all right. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So just make sure that part of this was naivety, the fact that I was so young, the fact that I didn't really know. Yeah, I did. But I don't know. I just trusted him. So I thought, he's a bank manager. In Ireland, if you're a bank manager, you're like, you can trust that person. Maybe not nowadays, but people will be like, no. But I don't know.
I think at that time it was the height of property prices were going up so fast all the time that it was just, if there is a problem, it'll get sorted because it'll just be, it'll just fade into insignificance because the price will double in the next 2 years.
Like at that time they were giving out 120% more.
Yeah. So we had, like I said, we did like 5,000 properties, and the majority of people that were coming in for full furniture packages, and a lot of those were based on mortgage. They effectively got 20% more than the value.
It's like you need money to get your furniture, then you would get 120% mortgage.
And then literally, because when mine happened was like 2007, so it must have been that same time.
Yeah, 2008 I think I bought mine.
So I bought a property here, my first property in Lopagam by the coast. And,
2007 I think, sorry.
And I paid 158,000 for a 2-bed apartment with 1 bathroom in the garage. That's one thing we need to add, actually, parking. And I sold it sort of 10 years later for 100,000. So lost a lot of money. Relatively lost a lot of money. The thing was, at that time when I sold it for 100,000, I actually bought another property in the same area for 80,000 that would have been probably 200,000 at the time. So it's all relative. If you're selling something and buying something in the same area, then if the property prices have dropped, they've dropped.
Yeah.
So you buy something, so not too bad.
That time was crazy though, wasn't it? That was a crazy time. I don't think we'll ever get that again. No.
It was just madness. But it was sort of inflated by so many different things. Everybody was doing it, or massive companies, company called Polaris, were all building in this area about 6,000 properties. And they were just giving incentives to buy, and there was so many things. Banks were falling over backwards to help you.
Yeah. So just trust your gut. Trust your gut. Like Paul said, the same way as you would if you're back in wherever you come from. Just think it through. Like this doesn't feel right. Just check it out. get a couple of different opinions maybe if you want to, go to like estate agent stuff that are trusted, that people that recommend them to you.
Obviously, the ideal is you want to be able to speak to them, so get one that speaks your language. I think that's really important because a lot of the time, if it's a translation situation, this was more so then in 2003. I'd be sat in the bank with my lawyer, the bank manager, and me, and they'd be talking for 5 minutes and gesticulating and you'd see the face like drop, and then I'd say, "Is okay?" Yeah, no problem. I have no idea what they were talking about.
That's why
I don't
know if you've noticed, but when I'm translating, I always tell them, stop for a minute, stop, I'm just going to translate that bit so far. And then they'll be, because I know what it's like to be on the other end of that. Because when I first came to this, I spoke a bit of Spanish, but when you're buying a house or you're at the hospital, we've said in the language episode, it's different language, and they speak so fast, it takes a while to get used to it. So that's why I'm aware of the fact that you're sitting there and you might not be keeping up with the conversation. Then all of a sudden say, "Oh, we just said whatever," and it's like, "Well, we must have said much more than that." So I always make sure to stop people and be like, "No, let me just translate up to this point. Let me just translate up to this point." Yeah, because
if you are there and they're speaking in Spanish and you don't understand them, they start grimacing or laughing excessively. I would say, "Can you just fill me in on the point, please?"
Do say that. Yeah, and don't be afraid if they start talking between themselves to stop them and say, what did you say there? Break the conversation down so that you're getting all the information. Because sometimes people forget as well. I know for me, if I'm translating for somebody else, I have to stop them because there's no way that after 10 minutes I'm going to remember everything that was said. It's the same for everyone.
You've got to get a good lawyer. And it's going to be hard because obviously you won't have any experience, but and things like Facebook, if somebody's recommending somebody, check that other people have recommended them as well, see how established they are. If they've been in business for 25 years and they're still going and they're still getting good recommendations from various people, they probably could. That is sort of really important. I was really naive when I came on. I was here on my own. I've just moved here. I didn't know. I go in the first bank, so all sort of thing, went in to ask about mortgage, and then they recommended me a lawyer, and all those things, and he spoke reasonable English, but nothing fantastic. The bank manager was really friendly and spoke English. That's what sort of pushed me towards them, but it's very dangerous, because they're selling, a mortgage is a product, they're selling the product, and the same with the agents, you get some really good agents, and we've got 2 agents coming on, but and they've been in business here now for 20 and 40 years. They're still going and we still got great recommendations. But you might come over and you don't know anybody, and you walk in. Agents are just selling something. They're not doing it as a free gift. So
that was
as an example.
I was just going to say that happened, because I was looking for the property that I bought in the end. Of course, you check out different places, and someone said, "Oh, these guys are really nice. They'll help you out." And I always say this, it's just estate agents have properties that are difficult to sell. They've got ones that and they'll maybe see certain people that they think might be easier to get rid of.
They won't understand anything.
Yeah, and I was, as I say, I've said it, I was young, single mother, they probably...
I would say desperate, didn't they? I didn't think you were desperate.
But there was an element of I wanted to find somewhere,
They pick up on that, they'll pick up on, I need something because of the situation.
That's why.
But they're selling, they are selling something.
One of the properties they brought me to was dingy. There was 2 bedrooms, but one of the bedrooms was covered in balcony. And I mean, that's fine, you can cover in the balcony and they look lovely. But this one wasn't well done, covered in balcony. The glass that they'd used to cover in the balcony was broken, had cracks in it. And they were trying to tell me that's all I could afford. Like, the budget that I had, that was the only thing that I would be able to afford. And I remember feeling really upset.
So what it really was, that was all they had on their books at the price you could afford. That's not the same, is it? That doesn't mean saying that's all that's available.
So it's a bit upset, like, thinking, oh, these guys know what they're talking about. This is all I can afford. And I was thinking, like, you're thinking your baby, you sleep within this dodgy bedroom, like, that's not what I wanted. And it's an emotional journey buying a property. It doesn't matter if you're buying a second home in Spain or your home or whatever it is. It's somewhere you're going to put down roots, and your family's going to spend time there, create memories there, or look there. And so, you have to be aware and we go with the right people. And I love looking at property. So the fact that they told me that's all I could afford, after I thought about it for, overnight, I slept on it and woke up and thought, no, it's not. I'm always looking at property on, property platforms or just walking around the town. And so I went and just did a little bit more, check it out myself, and I found loads of places that I could have bought, the same price they were trying to sell me this dodgy apartment. Yeah. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And there's lots of good ones. There's lots of good estate agents who would never do that, of course, but there are ones who will take advantage of
nowadays it's so much easier because with things like Idealist and Photocasa, you can do that from sitting at home. When we were coming over, we were sort of trying to do it by getting I think it was called Costa Blanca newspaper, which had like 10 estate agents in the back. And you don't know where the places are, you didn't have Google Maps then, so you couldn't see where they were or anything. So now, those things, the Idealist, the Photocasa, you might not buy through it, but it's a really good portal to be able to see what's in the area, how much they are, what the price is, what the high price is, what the low price is, why is that one so much lower? It's probably a reason for it. Hopefully, from a buying point of view, the reason is that people need to sell it fast for some reason, not a problem. But not the fact that it happens to be right next to an electrical pylon or something like that, which it's happened.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and just be on the other side of that, not just be the east but the property portals that, as we keep saying, and I hate to be so negative, but it's not about Spain and it's not about moving to Spain. It's just that everywhere in the world there are people who will try to take advantage of other people. That's just a fact of every country of the world. And so on the property portals as well, you can find people who are trying to scam you out of money. So trying to get you to rent somewhere from a distance, so they'll get you, trying to send you a lot of money, and then you'll turn up. We know a lot of people who it's happened to, or people who we've read about it happening to, or people.
We had one person who worked with us who it happened to.
That's right, yeah.
Down in the Costa del Sol. And he'd seen the place, and he was local in it, and he got shown around it, said he wanted it, gave him a deposit. It turned out they were renting the property and just left.
Yeah, so it's hard, So, the things that they usually say is, obviously, if you're buying from abroad, if you're in the UK and you want to, because it might not be the home that you're going to rent to settle down in, but it might be the home that you want to be your base for a couple of months. You need to get it sorted before you move. You need to be able to, it's difficult to sort it out when you first arrive. So most people will, rent a property even for 2 or 3 months to find the property that they want to maybe rent long term or buy long term. So you kind of need to do that. There needs to be a bit of trust. So the things that they say are like, if they put pressure on you to pay, that's kind of a red flag.
You want massive amount of money for a deposit rather than just a holding deposit.
Yeah, that's another red flag. And then some people will do, although in that case that we just heard, it wouldn't have helped, but sometimes people put up properties onto property portals that don't even exist. So you ask them to do for a time to do a video call where they can show you around the property. Well, that will help a lot. In the case that you've just explained, that wouldn't help. But in lots of cases, that would be a way to kind of make you feel a bit more comfortable about sending a coupon. But I don't think you would ever need to send, or you shouldn't ever need to send more than a deposit.
No,
maybe the first month, but I'd still be asking questions if I had to send more than a deposit.
Saying all that, you have to be careful, and there will always be future horror stories, but I would still recommend that you rent before you buy, because trying to do it the other way, where you buy remotely, if it does go wrong, it's going to go massively wrong. Whereas if you rent it, you lose your deposit and it's a learning curve. But if you start to put big deposits down on houses and things like that, and it's in the wrong place, somewhere where you don't want it, or it's next to something that you didn't know was going to be built there, pig farm, something like that. The result is massive. It's life changing. Whereas, all right, you lose €1,000 deposit. It's not good, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So still rent, but just be careful with
Yeah.
renting.
Just unfortunately, there are just scammers out there everywhere, everywhere on your
Everywhere.
emails, on your phone, and everywhere people can find out to scam you, they'll scam you. So just try and think about it. My mom thinks everything's a scam now.
Yeah.
She's like, that's a scam. I'm like, no.
Might not be, but it's a good way to think.
It is, yeah.
But think it through. Don't just think it's a scam.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had just one more thing about the properties, and this is no different to the UK or anywhere. Is that try to go to the property that you become interested in at loads of different times.
Yeah.
I'm only saying that from personal experience because we recently 2 years ago bought an apartment for my mother and near me, 1 bedroom apartment, and even with my experience and all the mistakes I've made that I should have learned from, it had a bar underneath it. And we read it to be a bar, which, most times in Spain, the bar opens, perhaps in worst case, it opens for breakfast at 9 o'clock in the morning and closes at midnight. Accepted that, that's fine. You're in the centre of the town, you're going to get some kind of noise. It turns out that it was actually a disco bar and didn't close until 5 in the morning. That wasn't on anything outside, but we never went looking at midnight or 1 o'clock, and it turned out to be a problem. It actually got sorted out with Catherine's help, actually. We spoke to them. It wasn't officially a disco. It's now been turned into a bar, and now quite sensible. So we knew it was a bar, so we weren't naive in that respect. We knew there'd be a little bit of noise during the day and more in summer than in winter. What we didn't know was that it was open until 4 o'clock directly below the property. So that's me, 20 years here, but no different to wherever you live. Just go at unusual times, and see what it's like and see how busy the road is and stuff like that. Not teaching you to suck eggs, but doing the same here as well.
Yes, definitely. I would definitely do that. I mean, you might have a dog that barks shouldn't lie you, or you might have whatever. That's something that winds me up, like dogs barking.
My property in the countryside, I think that we converted. A lot of the properties around it, so they weren't that close, but they were close enough. A lot of them were effectively Spanish country houses for Spaniards for the summer. So they'd come and they'd have a pool and they'd have country house with trees and everything, so it was a little bit cooler. But then, in the winter, there was a man, Paco the waterman, was also Paco the dogman. And Paco used to drive round all the streets feeding, effectively, guard dogs in all the houses on a daily basis, or by daily basis. But if one dog started barking, the whole lot started barking. And there's like 50 houses within an area of a square kilometre with 49 dogs barking, and just things like that, To be honest with you, that sort of thing, you sort of get used to a little bit more because it's just happened. Again, if you are going to a country house, take a dog with you, get it to bark and see how many other dogs start barking. You might be the only one. It won't affect you because you're used to it, everybody else is.
Although I think everything annoys me these days. Sometimes I think I just need to go and live by myself on an island, so maybe that was to me.
Other people in the summer, noisy dogs.
Yeah, I was like people,
live, podcast co-hosts. Yeah, so that was sort of our experience of properties. Yeah, I've actually sold 2 properties as well, but they went really straightforward. They were straightforward.
Yeah.
So, a good lawyer on my side, and their lawyer worked good as well. Nice people who bought, and things done properly. A good agent that worked effectively for both of us, for them as a buyer, but also for me as the seller. And it worked okay. But I've probably learned more from those 2 experiences more recently, where it was all done properly than I did.
Yeah, and that's good to hear, because as we said at the start, you don't hear those stories, sure you don't. So you kind of only hear
I've been just on a podcast about property. I didn't mention it until I remembered it in the last minute. If you remember all the things that went wrong. Yeah.
I was just going to say when I was buying mine, it wasn't stressful at all, but of course that's because he was just doing whatever he wanted. It's our first experience.
It's helping you in one way, but then not the other.
Stress-free.
So.
But it's good. And again, as we say, we're sorry that it was maybe a bit negative, but again, it's just our experience, and it's going to be lots of people's experiences that as well. And you can learn from our experience. So if you are thinking about buying property in Spain, well, there's all these things to just to keep in mind. Yeah.
And most importantly is, that we still love living here. And all right, we might have done things slightly differently, but we slightly, I still love being here, I love where I live, I love what I live in, so don't let it put you off, just be sensible about it.
Yeah. In the end, they'll probably just be funny stories that you tell on the podcast. So.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just mention next 2 weeks. So the next 2 weeks, so this is going out at about the beginning of August, roughly. And then the following 2 weeks of that, we've got the two guests on. So if you've got any questions for them, then send us an email to hello@spainfullyhonest.com. But also have a listen to those because they've got two experts who are going to talk about different property types. And one might be appropriate to you, one might not.
Yeah, and we'll ask them like the proper questions like that you probably want answered, like what paperwork do you need for this, and what do you need for that, and what do you need to do if you want to rent it out, and all that kind of stuff as well. So we just wanted to speak about property in general today, as was how we experienced it. But the questions that you might be more likely to want answered, we'll ask them because they'll give you a much better answer than we would.
Okay. Thank you for listening.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening, and please don't forget to subscribe. We're on Spotify, YouTube, and Amazon Music. So please subscribe to those. It doesn't cost you anything, it just helps us get higher up in the rankings so more people will see it. The more people that see it, we can get more guests on things. So please, write us a review if you like it, or write us a review if you don't like it. I prefer if you do like it. It really helps, honestly. So thank you very much.
Brilliant, thank you.